to see, we all want to be real, and we're searching when we're finding.
That's usually how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. However, you get, I'm just saying, I want to see your faces, but that's okay. I see your faces. Frozen in time.
Frozen in time, right? In the now,
Yeah.
always.
Frozen in maybe yeah, it's similar. You know, frozen in time. Yeah. Hey, I'm looking at your page. I like the guys getting hit with the water here. That's pretty cool. What are they doing? Are they fixing the stairs or something? Or
Which picture are you talking about?
there's a picture of like a cabin. It looks like it could be, somewhere in the south. And there's a guy throwing water out the window that's about to hit this other unsuspecting guy who's trying
Oh,
to.
yeah. It's from our article. We just wrote one article about time, I guess. I just don't remember, so we just placed the picture there.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
that's good.
thank you for joining us. It's really a huge pleasure to have you here today, and to be able to talk to you. We have been following your work for quite a long time, and it's always, fascinating how you always are capable to talk in such profound way, to gather words, phonetics and philosophy into one language of spirituality. It's very beautiful how you do retreats with people and how you help them to remember their divinity, the course of awakening. And, maybe you could please tell us something more about yourself, what you do, just to share with our listeners, and maybe how the awakening process occurred for you personally in your life. And maybe was there some break point in your life, or just everything just started from your childhood? And also we know that you are from Sweden, so how you moved, and, maybe you just can share your story with our listeners just at the beginning.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for having me on. I love doing this. My work is my pleasure. Just that right there is a good T-shirt, isn't it? My work is my pleasure. Right there, that would just wake up millions of people. Excuse me. But thanks, guys. Yeah, my awakening, and it continues. We have this idea that's crept in that there's some kind of sudden enlightenment and it's all over. This is kind of from the Hindu, the Vedic, the Yogic, the Zen, and it's crept in everywhere. Yes, there are times, I would suggest, when there's sort of a huge shift, but it's not the end. It's not the end. You can't compare Shiva to Eckhart Tolle. Feel that for a thing, right? Those are two different beings. Shiva is been a god for thousands, million, who knows? And he's a real being that used to be human. Ayahuasca is a real being. She's a feminine human being that awoke. So she's a god now, a goddess. Pele on Hawaii, she was a human being from the South Pacific, from Tahiti, and then they went to Hawaii. But she awoke. So there's layers of awakening. It's always good to remember, because the old model is somehow, oh, I'm enlightened and now nothing ever happens. I just sit here in the light and do nothing, right? You know what I mean? Right? That's the old model. And then the mind gets a hold of it and says, oh, I have to compare myself to some being that people are thinking is enlightened, or they're calling themselves enlightened, or letting their followers call them enlightened, which is even trickier, right? You know what I mean? So I've certainly sometimes people ask me, are you enlightened, Tobias? I go, compared to where I was, yeah. You know what I mean, right? But I also know there's more to go. But there are certain places where you do come out of the darkness. Like there's karmic prisons where you are unconscious. You don't know why this is happening. You just sort of are like being thrown about by your own mind, your reactive responses, your fears, your lusts. So there is, quote, an enlightenment from being controlled by programs, controlled by your old karma, where you wake up and you can't go back in the box. So you could call that. That awakening has happened to me. I cannot ever... See, now, even saying that, your mind goes, careful, right? Because in one sense, you could say an awake being says, I'll forget who I am and just play for a while. Yes, that's true. And that's a beautiful allegory where we go, we're all awake. We're all awake. We're just pretending to be asleep. That's true too. But there is actual suffering and actual sleep and actual being at the effect. So that stuff started happening to me big time when I was 19. When I was 19 years old, I opened a book on yoga positions and my body remembered how to do them. I'd never had anything to do with the Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga or any energy work. And as I did the positions by myself in my college dorm room at the University of Connecticut in Kingston Hall at the north end of the campus, right? See, it's good to make it concrete and not mystical, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So in my little dorm room there, and my roommate was conveniently gone for a few days, and something happened in my body as these yoga positions, my body was like hungry, going, yes, 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 remember this, we used to do this. And something happened where energies would release in my body, like you unlocked, like you were using keys and unlocking like rooms in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have this energy spiral, and literally I would feel myself going out the top of my head.
Yeah.
And floating above, and I'd be like 40 feet big, and I'd go, wow. And it was an actual sensation. So this, got my attention. And so my first big awakening was this yoga awakening, and from then on I was pretty good yogi. 7 years, sleeping on the floor, doing yoga every night, doing my meditation, vegetarian. And it was beautiful. And I got opened up to Yogananda. I went to India a couple of times, and met various masters. And so that was a big awakening. I was 19. And then when I was 29, personal stories are fun. It's okay. 29, I had a whole nother catastrophe. Right? Oh, thank you, God, for my catastrophes. We should look up what that word means, actually. I've never done it. I don't know. But it means something's happening. So, and I call it colloquially emergencies, that emerge and see the deeper picture. I'm emerging out of the womb, And so a lot of this is happening for the planet right now. But at 29, I had a whole nother, God stepped in, the universe, my own soul, and one of my etheric teachers, who was physical in body at the time, but he would come etherically to me and said, let's go do this. And I met another person, and we opened up energetically, sexually, energetically, tantrically, and it was completely not, this is not usually who I would ever have sex with, you understand? It was like a destroyer of the ego. See, the universe seems to love, wherever you say God isn't, or Source isn't, or the Tao isn't, the universe goes, really?
Let me show you something.
Yes, rich people are all horrible, evil devils, right? No. Or Mother Teresa says, of course, anywhere you place judgment, the universe tends to want to, like water, go in there and loosen things up. That's my experience. So through this awakening, I also actually learned to see other dimensions, feel spirits. And you understand, I came from, like you said, Christina, scientific atheism, Swedish, science was my father, nuclear physicist. I don't think we ever went to a church, like twice, like God was never, ever said. Even the word was never said, right? In our family. But I've come to realize that was awesome because I had no pollution. So I'm very grateful to both my parents, and they were free spirits in one sense, and they let us grow up in the woods, basically. Since we were little kids, we'd live in the city, and then every weekend and then during the summers, we'd be just like let free to roam in the woods and live with nature. So that was awesome. And but at the 29 years old, it was awakening to. I spent a lot of time in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona, and there was a gnome. Now this is going to freak. What are you talking about? Trolls and gnomes, Tobias? Oh, yes, that's what I'm talking about. and I went into a cave. We were walking up this beautiful canyon with water, giant boulders. It's like pure raw nature, gorgeous place. And there's a cave to the right, and I'm drawn in there, Now my friend and teacher, he's a friend now, but he already could see all this. His awakening to the nature kingdom had happened earlier. And so I go into the cave with him, and he comes in after me, because he's a good teacher. He's not pushing it, he's letting me find my way. And he just gently says, "Can you see something over here?" And he's allowed to tell me, he says, "There's a gnome sitting over here." And I'm like, I could feel it. I could feel Egra, that was his name. 2,000-year-old gnome, an unbelievable character, like a total curmudgeon, funny, playing in it. And he made it his job, like for the next 3 months, when we come back to the city and go to the office and go to lunch, he'd be with us. Like he'd come to lunch with us and sit next to me or my friend, right? He'd actually, in his etheric form, right? But a pretty good, solid etheric body as far as that goes. There's different levels of frequencies of that too. And he would make fun of me endlessly. Egra would make fun of me endlessly. He'd be like, "Tobias' skull is like so thick, I don't know if we'll ever open his third eye." And then he'd go get like a giant freaking hammer, And he'd be like etherically chiseling my third eye, and talking to my friend, going, "Nah, it's hopeless. This guy's fucked. We're never going to help this guy."
It's funny.
So, I know, but true story. And various other nature spirits, water sprites, the nature spirits that live in nature. Anywhere you see a little waterfall and little ferns dancing, if you stop and just relax and kind of widen your gaze like you're daydreaming, you'll start feeling them,
Yeah. The
And so
catastrophe
these are real
happens.
things. Yes.
I just
your
looked that
world
word
will-
up, by the way, and
Okay.
in an earlier meaning, around the 1530s, it was actually meaning for reversal of what is expected, a turning point, rather than a sudden disaster that came later.
A turn. See?
Reversal of the expected, exactly what you were talking about.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, years ago, what I call the angels of language or the lords of language talked to me. During this time, actually, I went between 29 and 33. I went through a kind of a longer period of deep, you could say, dark night of the soul, just another layer of opening. And whenever we do that, it is a catastrophe. It is a turning point. It is an emergency. It feels like nothing in my old life is working. You're being reborn. It's Jesus crying out, going, "Help me, I'm totally lost." It's that feeling. And that happens to so many of us, and we need to make this more publicly acceptable, spiritual emergence. I remember David Bowie talking about it when he had been very famous for a few years, but then his next album, he just was completely lost. And he was in Berlin, and he said, I had no foundation. I felt like a piece of flotsam. I didn't even, just that horrible ennui, dark night of the soul. And he said, I was just sitting in a cafe one day, and he said he literally passed out, and he wasn't drinking, and it wasn't from any of that. And he fell forward into his food, and as he came back, he just cried out, "I need help, I need help, I need help." And so I don't want to create it that you have to suffer, but if your new higher self is insisting on breaking you open, you may experience some of that deep feeling lost, hopelessness. So I was going through a phase like that. But I was wise enough, I had enough contact, obviously, with spirit and so forth, that I knew I wasn't going to kill myself. It's like if you're having a dark night of the soul occurring with you, it's because you're ready to handle it. See, people that can't handle that would just kill themselves, like people that if they lose the whole stock market, jump out of the window. Those people are so stuck in the material that they're not ready for it, right? So we have to have compassion for Source knows each soul when they're ready to crack open a bigger egg. And again, I would love for it to be easy, but it is like heroin detox. We are addicted to separation, ego, materiality, and to wake up from that, I'm sorry, it just takes some hard knocks usually for most people. That's the reality of it. So those are my two major awakenings, when I was 19 and then 29. And it continues. We're always growing. There's no cookie cutter ending. Right now, I can feel, if I go back onto nature, I can be with the nature spirit. But God is asking me recently, or I'm asking myself, it's the same thing. I was going to run away to a cabin this summer and just hang out in the cabin all by myself. But it's like my soul stepped in and vetoed that and said, no, I want you in the middle of the shit. I want you in the middle of the materialism and the dysfunction of humanity. I want you in that, because if you can function in that, that's what's happening to me right now. There's a right time to retreat, and there's a right time not to. See, this is where we can't make rules about it. Because if you make a rule about it, that, a monk is the right thing, well, that'll get stale pretty quickly sometimes. And other times it's Jim Morrison living full-on drunken Dionysus is the right thing. It just depends on the individual soul and timing and
Yeah, it's an art.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That's beautiful. The art of awakening.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So that's the most I've ever told, actually, or in a long time, or probably ever, actually, recording about some of my personal details. I've never mentioned Egra the gnome before.
He's gonna be famous now.
and he was so funny. He'd be like, I know who you humans are. I want nothing to do with you. But he said somehow. So for him coming to the city, he would like remind me what a sacrifice that was for him. Really, pollution, mental, physical, really, asphalt, seriously, you guys are insane. And so he would like make fun of me, that what a sacrifice, It was all with love. It was really beautiful. And that's a mind awakener. That's a shock to realize this is real. He's 2,000 years old. He's been living out in these mountains. He can go and he talks to all the gnomes in the whole world, because they're on like the whales do. The whale sounds talk across the whole planet. Well, they do the same thing. We do too. We just pretend we don't. And it was awesome, beautiful. And then we met the god Pan. The god Pan is real. He runs the whole nature kingdom. He's actually God, if you want real God. God's physical form on this earth is the god Pan. The satyrs, the cloven hoof satyrs, some of them fell away and do misuse, see? But Pan, who also looks like that with the horns and the ears, that's his natural form, but he can take any form. He is actually the father of manifestation, the physically manifested aspect of God's source for Earth. Wow.
And David Bowie played him in this movie, The Labyrinth. He was Pan.
Yeah.
Remember that? With all the gnomes and animals?
Yeah. And obviously someone like a soul like David Bowie, you can feel he's a star person. He actually makes the movies, the man who fell to earth, So we all have different aspects to us. Not all of us are star people on the planet, but many are. There's no cookie cutter human. There's groups of humans, but it's a much more nuanced and a bigger picture happening on Earth. And right now that's waking back up, and we're in the midst of birth, and it's turmoil, and the old control system is going to want to throttle it and shut it down, and others are, the water is going to break the dam regardless. So there's this huge awakening happening and also this huge dying off. Right now, at the same time, it's like we have multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, but we're actually realizing it now on Earth. Many, many millions of people are just waking up now. It's an awesome time for me, but it's also an incredibly difficult time for people that are going to have these catastrophes, these shocks to the system. It's going to be touch and go for a while.
Yeah, yeah. And also you write some books and you work with people. Maybe you just can share the links with our listeners as well, where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah. My first book I wrote called Listening to the Sun, or it's actually called We're Not Listening to the Sun.
Mm-hmm.
And the other title of it is The Awakening Souls. It's the same book, 2 covers, which freaks people out sometimes. But some people like the angel and some people like the fiery sun. And I try to tell people you don't need to order both of them. But you can just go to Amazon and look up Awakening Souls, Tobias Lars, or Listening to the Sun, Tobias Lars, and choose which cover you like. That book I gave myself total permission to write freely. No agenda, no buffering, no demographic analysis, no wanting to reach people, just me being absolutely real. And I'm surprised and pleasantly surprised that it keeps growing and going, and people write me every week, saying, "Oh my God, I love your book. This is like my Bible," or it's awesome. For the right people, that book is. I talk about everything in there. It's like 50 chapters of little grokky experiences I've had, including things like I just told you, multiple body experiences, talking to the angel of death, actually talking to him and him explaining who he is, and personal insights and just real life experiences. And with me ranting occasionally and being very loving at other times and very wise at other times. So it's kind of like you took an encyclopedia of awakening and condensed it into 50 little nuggets. And that's how I tell people to read it. Just flip through the titles and just go to the one that attracts you, because this is a holographically random access written book. So that's something that people are responding nicely to. And my personal work with people is under soulcounseling.com. And I get to experience all this we're talking about. I get people all the time, because I've been through it. I'm safe, relatively safe, to work with other people. I'm joking because my guides are making fun of me. They're like, "Tobias, we're desperate. If we had someone better to work with, we'd work with them. But, at least you're trying, so we got to work with you." It's like, they're desperate for people who actually want to try it on this planet, so they got to work with whoever volunteers, right? When I say that, it's the mass of God's source. It's God. It's beings that have merged with God, beings that don't need names. They don't use names anymore. There's many, many, many more than there are humans. There are beings that are helping us, and there's beings that are hurting us too. And this is part of learning. There's beings that are interested in messing with you and stealing your energy, and there's others that are here to truly help. And there's layers of that, of wisdom, and they are all accessible to all of us. So I work with these spirits, and these are natural talents that happen when you start healing yourself. Like when I work now with soul retrievals, I actually see and can feel, usually off here to my right and like down this timeline, I will feel people's past lives, and we'll go talk to that aspect of the person. Sometimes the person I'm working with would feel it and see it themselves. Sometimes they don't. And so soul retrievals, basic soul counseling, I do like what you'd call coaching. I don't like that word. But whatever comes up in the moment with soul counseling, sometimes it's talking, sometimes it's just energy work, sometimes it's a lot of laughter, insights. It depends on what that soul needs. But I meet a lot of people. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Woman in Houston, perfect little life, gated community, lawyer husband, everything's going great, having their first child, and then her soul the timing happens that it's time for her to wake up. And she finds herself actually going into the nothing space in the middle of the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, Tobias, I can't even remember my name. I'm just standing there and just like a pure observer.
Hmm.
And then people come up to me and start hugging me, or I hug them. And my classic response is always, oh yeah, totally normal, you'll be fine.
Yeah, don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Because I've actually had that experience. I had 45 minutes one day at the gym where I could not remember my name. Actually I could, but at first I was like, oh my God, what is happening? And I'm not doing this to scare people. My point is the soul is no respecter of your little identity.
Mm-hmm.
And when your soul downloads a little bit into you, you're going to have some experiences. You cannot stay the way you are and change. Hello? You know? So if we're asking for change, you're going to have some change. Woman in Australia, God bless her. Her sister's a yogi. She thinks that stuff's all weird, and she's like, her husband owns a construction company, and just, you know, she's just a good Sheila, as they would say in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden she starts seeing a Hindu goddess like literally materialize in her room, in her house. And she's like, what's happening to me? And my standard answer is, it's normal, you'll be fine. And she's doing great, you know. Or so that I get to work with souls that are going through sometimes big changes like that, and sometimes just they've been on the path a long time and they need some tune-ups or just some, you know, let's sit in the communing space together. And I'm very privileged and humbled by it. It's an orgasm. It's a gas for me. It's beautiful. I love it.
Because it causes compassion. The emptiness causes compassion. The Buddhist been saying that forever. And there's the perfect example, you know, blank everything out. And then you have the immediate feeling of wanting to hug somebody to fill that emptiness up together, because that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. And so I have hundreds of people like that, or not hundreds maybe, but like 100 people in that heavy wake-up situation that I've worked with over the years. And then sometimes it's someone that's been on the path a long time, a 30-year-old Buddhist monk. 30 years as a monk. There's a woman nun, and she calls me and she has this thing going on, and we work through it, and it's just time for her to take the robes off and get back out into the world, you know?
Mm.
Or the Chinese guy, I love this one, a 22-year-old young man from Beirut, Lebanon. And his spirit was such an ancient prince, like he was just this solid, calm, powerful entity. And he needed he's just young, remembering who he is. And it was really beautiful to feel his energy, you know. And he says, yeah, all my friends are like, why don't you talk, you know, like the rest of the Arabs, you know what I'm saying? Right? It's like even more than Italian, you know. But and he said, I said, because of this, you know. Then we tap into his past lives, and it's just beautiful. So I get to really, it's really beautiful to watch, and because I get to see the big awakening happening everywhere. Young Ethiopian Swedish guy mixing the tall Ethiopian black, beautiful, you know how tall they are. That sort of royal tall, like the Maasai are like that too, but the Ethiopians definitely have this beautiful royal influence. And he's half that, he's like 6'4", and he's half Swedish. And he's this beautiful star warrior soul. And he's just having total wake up. And he's like 23 also. And then young nature spirits, you know, and it's a hard time sometimes. It's really a hard time because we don't fit in. And it's hard not to get angry at times because basically the old system will just drug them horribly, you know, with pharmaceuticals. When I'm thinking of another young man that came to our Swedish Course of Awakening last summer, and he's so sweet. Now he can be in our group and he can talk openly about the fairies and the other worlds and stuff. But when he goes home, they just want to drug him because they think he's hallucinating, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's heartbreaking sometimes. Um, there's millions of us here on the planet, and I can feel you guys being strong. I just felt, for Stefan, and you too, Christina, I felt it with you, Stefan. Like this young man I'm thinking of, like guys like you would be mentors. You've seen through, see, there's young spirits that don't understand the craziness on Earth, and they get really hurt by it. And then there's other spirits that we've got this, had our stuffing kicked out of us. We've been through a bunch of lifetimes, and we kind of know the deal. We know it's a war zone at times, you know? And so we can be sort of solid and explain to these others. I have a great example for you. Ayahuasca journey down in Pucallpa at the center in the jungle there. And Casey, who is they run the center, him and his wife. And as my friend Mark, who's apprenticing there, Mark told me this story. He goes back to the bathrooms because you're purged during ayahuasca ceremony. And he sees Casey, who's tall. He sees Casey with his pointed, fairy ears, elf ears. And he sees Casey talking to another young guy who's just coming to do ayahuasca for the first time. And Casey's basically telling him, yes, you and I are from other kingdoms. We're elves, we're fairies. And the guy is just in shock because he's seeing himself as a fairy and he's seeing Casey as a fairy. And Casey's giving him a debriefing of, yes, we're not exactly like some humans. And the guy's just in shock, It's like so cute. It's
What
like
am
you
I?
have the elder wise fairy who knows how to function in the human world is explaining to the young one, like, yes, I know, it's crazy. Of course it's crazy. Yeah, they don't know how to love. Yeah, they freak out. They want to control everything. I understand. But, yes, you're going to be okay. It's like he's debriefing him and talking him down. It's like really amazing. So there's something like that with you guys, too. You guys have roles of being a voice of sanity when lots of the spirits are having a hard time.
Yeah. See him all around these days, friends and friends of friends, and I find myself sometimes just being in a party or a bonfire or whatever and start talking to the people that I see they have some questions and it just flows through me. I didn't even have a plan what I'm gonna talk, but it just flows. I see the problems in front of me that they have and I'm just being the
Yeah.
mirror and they just nod and they're thankful for um that somebody addresses that and literally opens that up for them so they can let that energy out or in or whatever has to happen.
You both have that mature, wise energy, but you're young and innocent and hopeful and hearts and love, It's like, see, wise love, wise innocence is different than, when we first come in. When we first come in, we learn through heavy experiences. And then after you've been through it, so you guys both carry that, as I'm just feeling it, you're going to help people. Yeah, it's nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe we just can talk now about the ascension, and because it's the main topic of today's many spiritual movements, and we feel some kind of delusion about that because people are talking about the raising vibrations, lowering vibrations. It's really delusional thing, and also like I just liked how you talked about the DNA, like angels are ascending, descending the ladder in us, and also DNA is the anagram for ant, which is binding material. So, angels or those angles, in other words, are just another aspects of us, how we're looking at ourselves, at our memory. So what can you share about this ascension delusion of society, which people are talking
Yes.
about?
So maybe when we had Lemuria, Atlantis, we lost direct, easy contact where you could just materialize and dematerialize. There was still liquid form more back then. So you have bird-headed people, lion-headed people, actually eagle people, mermen, mermaids, and all that. There was a time when we could liquefy, go up and down Jacob's ladder, the stairway to heaven. We can go all, up to just being a point of light or an orb, and then come down and materialize a body in the fourth dimension. See, there's no bodies in the fifth dimension. There's just orbs, and then it goes even finer to just points, and then it's just part of everything. These are all models, and we can argue about it, but the fourth dimension, you actually create a body. Like you separate the light into a spectrum. It goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and then there's some more chakras as well. And that creates the bipedal body. And then that is just a matter of being more or less solid. So the third and fourth dimension are really meant to be communicating and walking in and out of, all of them actually. That is the stairway to heaven. Now when masters did this in the past, when it became very dense on Earth, they had to have secret mystery schools. Therefore, the yogic traditions. I'm a Kriyaban with Yogananda's association. Yogananda is a teacher of mine. So you have these secret breathing and energy movement techniques, right? For ascension. And so the goal becomes, for a lot of souls, it turns into the body is evil, the body is a nest of troubles, the flesh is weak. And so in the past, recent past 3,000, 6,000 years, whatever, actually about 12,500 years, and before, there's been a lot of confusion about the being trapped in the body. So therefore the ascension schools develop, basically developing methods of getting out of the body. And so that's spiraling out, but that has a judgment, and now that is finally changing again. We're coming back with this 2012, the Maya, this shift into this new frequency really in the galaxy. The galaxy spins, I think it's 225 million years it takes, and it has different frequency zones. Just like we have seasons, the galaxy has sort of seasons. You can call them yugas, or Bronze Age, Silver Age, Golden Age, or there's all kinds of cycles. So we're upgrading now so that during the old cycle, maybe that was the spiritual technique, that ascension. You really are not going to be able to take your physical body with you and liquefy it during that heavy period. I'm not saying that any of that's wrong at all. Those traditions were right at the time. But the shift now is away from ascending, getting out of the body as you're getting out of a trap and going, oh, I'm finally out of the body, I'm never going back to that. So that became the ascension schools. And if that was the Great Pyramid, where the Ra beings, who are a collective complex from Venus, basically. Some of this is really far out, I know. But they're a complex of beings, 14,000 souls that became one thing. They wanted to come and help the Earth. They got permission. But they're learning their own thing. They learned that the help didn't work. The pyramid was a failure. Because it gets co-opted and corrupted. Ultimately, you can say it's all good because we're all learning. But they were learning that they can't step in and give these super technologies to the humans yet, to publicly, big scale, because we misuse it. So that beautiful pyramid that was an ascension chamber that Moses went through, Jesus went through, lots of us went through it, right? And it was used to travel to the stars, Draco and and Osiris and Isis and all that. That beautiful ascension chamber that the pyramid is got corrupted. And misuse happened, if you will. Power over others. So all these ascension schools, whether it's the pyramid or yoga or Chinese Qigong, the Taoist stuff, or some of the Inca stuff, it wasn't respecting, honoring, loving, including. It didn't include human feelings. We made fun of feelings, right? The macho patriarchy is basically making fun of feelings, right? And the feminine getting caught in feelings is no good either. If you get in the whirlpool stuck in feelings, it's the cat lady. It's the woman who works herself to death to take care of all of her kids, but she doesn't take care of herself. That's not healthy either. So it's not about men bad, women good. It's not like that. It takes two polarities to create the fall. It takes two to come out of it. But so all these schools of ascension judged against at some level or made lower or less spiritual. We made the first three chakras wrong. We made emotions, your solar plexus, wrong. It's big, stupid emotions. You got to control them. It's still going on en masse, right? We're like, no, I'm fine. No, you're not. You're not fine. You're a fucking volcano of turmoil, and that's why your arm's not working anymore, and that's why you're smoking, and your eyes are like, gone. But so emotions, and then the next chakra is sexuality, creation, functioning openly with that in the world. That's obviously super damaged on the planet, and still made wrong or fought over or used as a tool. We got major problems with that. And then the survival chakra, the root chakra, is even more fundamental. We're stuck in that. It's all about survival, and we think money's going to help us survive. So these first three chakras are the foundation. And now the change is that those need to be fully included. Now it would happen for St. Francis or St. Anthony or Buddha. They would get sort of massive cleanup. If they activated enough fire, then the rest of it would kind of get sucked up and cleaned as well. This is true. But I'm going to tell a deeper truth here right now. Even Jesus, who did ascend and take his body with him, there's parts of him that he's still recovering on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Pieces of himself. See, if you leave a piece of yourself behind, you have to come back and get it. That just makes sense. If you cut your arm off, and let's say you could go back and get it, put it back on, which you can in the ether worlds, you got to go back and get it if you want to be whole. So ascension was temporary ascending out of there, leaving the body and some, quote, bad energies behind, some trauma, drama, and karma, deep trauma, hells, if you will, demonic stuff, we could call it, or just deep patterns of confusion for the soul. At first, we would just wrestle our way out of the body and go back to the ethers, the heavens, if you will, and hang out there. And we dumped our body and our emotional energies on the earth. We made the earth a garbage dump. We still have. And the physical garbage dumping is just a reflection of the inner astral energies that we've dumped. Any part of yourself that you are not open with, your emotions and sexuality now come up big time, right? That is not free yet. This is a big task. But the new model is we have to include, how do you feel? No, I don't want to talk about my feelings. You can't do that model anymore. How do you feel? I feel scared. I feel excited. We're going to have to be honest like little kids. This is why Jesus says that plainly. He says, unless you become as little children, you're not going to enter the real kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? It means you got to get real, transparent, honest with your feelings. And then we have to heal the sexuality too. Like non-ownership sexuality, but not fallen like porn, most porn. There's good porn, and most of it is crappy, right? It's like, people acting out denial stuff, in my opinion. 80% of it sucks, maybe 20% is okay. Or ownership sexuality. If there's real love, it's basically a time out on earth. We got so lost in sexuality that Source had to say, okay, time out, we're going to have to put a, emergency measure on here and give you some strict rules. You got to be in committed relationships and married and all this stuff, or otherwise it's called cheating. All those definitions are going to go away. The whole of the law is going to be love. We're going to have, but until we have the discernment in ourselves between, is this love or is this some succubus entity, then we need rules. See, once the whole of the law is love in our own being, we don't need rules because we are the rules. Love is the rule. But when you aren't run by love, but you're programmed and you've been conquered and divided and taken over and you're run by fears and all this, you need rules.
Mm.
People who don't have rules inside themselves need rules. And today on the earth, if all of a sudden all the cops went away today, 20% of the people are completely fine. 80% are able to be influenced by mob mentality and fear.
Mm.
So there would be, so we're not ready for, 20% of people would be like, this is awesome. No government, no cops, no locks on the door, nobody's stealing, we're good. But a lot of the 80% of the people, whatever that number is, it could be different than that, but generally it's something like that. But 20% of 7 billion is 1.4 billion people on this planet that are actually self-directing solid souls that may still have some issues to work out, but they will not fall for chaos and rape, murder, kill stuff. If you watch times when there's an emergency and people are coming out of the stores because they're looting, and you talk to them later, they'll go, I don't know why I was doing that. Because they are the mob. The mob is still not in charge of itself. And this is truth-telling. There's a lot of that still on the planet. And a lot of those souls, those souls are soul fragments. This is really deep stuff. People are going to judge some of this probably. But there's no overpopulation when people have the law of love in their hearts. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
The animal kingdom heals. The human kingdom, there's no need for contraception and all that because you decide, you invite a soul. It's not unconscious. Unconscious sexuality means unwanted pregnancies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Conscious sexuality without any birth control means you only do it when you really want to. Because the woman and the man have choice. The man can direct the actual sperm into, yes, I want this to go for pregnancy. And the woman can say, no, I don't want it. Either side can consciously choose. Do you think Jesus would get a woman pregnant willingly, accidentally? That's crazy. Feel that. You think Buddha, Jesus, Krishna would get a woman pregnant accidentally? Mm-hmm. Of course not. They're conscious. So this whole thing, so that, that's just an example of how unconscious we are as humans still, just to realize where we're at. So the true ascension is going to become more expansion. Ascension is going to be replaced with expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Expansion is going to be, I expand. I still have consciousness in my heart and in my head here, but I'm going to expand it through my whole body and outside my body, and I will become a conscious being, a God. A God. For those that want it right now. Most people on the planet in bodies right now today are not going to do it. We just got to be real. It's a denied fairy tale that everybody's going to wake up in this lifetime. Everybody's going to wake up at some point, go back to God. Everything has to go back to Source. But right now, these 7, 8 billion people that we're having, they're not all going to do that in this body. Not at all. We're just trying to do a bigger chunk of it now. We have 20% of the people interested. We're going to create enough critical mass that we're going to change. The planet's going to change. It's already going to happen. It's a fait accompli. It has to happen. Where we're going to have free energy. We're going to start teaching schools different. Everything is going to change. But right now, we're still caught in that old military dominant paradigm, fear control. And the biggest thing we can do as individuals is to come out of that for ourselves, because when we break the cycle in ourselves, we affect all of the creation. So the greatest thing you can do to heal the earth is to heal yourself.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So I think I answered that, Tom. So the old ascension schools have fulfilled their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more of come back into the body, reclaim the body, reclaim your sexuality for God's source, reclaim your emotions so they get healed again, reclaim your survival fears, reclaim your heart, reclaim all of you for most of us. We're going to reclaim, re-include, merge again with all those things that we have judged as evil. This is why shadow work, this is why personal healing is going to be the thing, I'm telling you. And I love that people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 20s and 30s, you guys know. You guys know. It's like, we're not even doing that old spiritual stuff. We need to get into some of this dark shit and clean it up if you want a real shift on the planet. you know.
Yeah. And also there is a huge perception about the body and soul. People usually want to divide where is my body and where is my soul. When actually what I see that body is the soul, you know, when we are descending through all, as so-called descending through all those, you
Yeah.
know, vibrations, the soul gets so dense that it just becomes the body. So when people are talking that body is only a vehicle, but you can leave that, and that's really a perception, just like and sometimes it's very hard to explain people how to switch that, so that has to come only in natural way. So
Exactly. And
We,
that's the
we,
trap. That's
yeah,
the trap. Exactly. If you dump your body, you got to go back and get it. If you say I am not my body, you've rejected a big chunk
yeah,
of yourself. You've divided yourself. Yeah. Go ahead, Stefan.
mm. Yeah, an interesting hint here is the Sanskrit word body, Bodhi, which in no, not in Hinduism, in Buddhism, is actually the understanding possessed by a Buddha regarding the true nature of things. And traditionally translated in English word with enlightenment, but it's more closer to awakened meaning. And that is the
Bodhi.
word body in Sanskrit, an awakened
Yeah.
soul they call body,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's a great example. I've never thought of that before. The Bodhi, the body. Yeah. That's a good one. Let's thank the angels of language. They have hidden it. It's so fun. The whole universe is a hologram, which means as soon as you start seeing it, appears everywhere.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
language is just this condensation. It's so much fun. They enjoy it. The angels of language that have creep in there, like, you know, they get them to name things perfectly. Like the geologists on this planet, they study, oh, at one time, all of the Earth land masses were in one land. What shall we call it? Pangea. Where do
Mm.
you? That's the actual name for it,
Mm.
Pangea, and even the academicians sitting there, so they name it that because the angels influence them and go, this is what we're gonna. They think it's their idea. It's not their idea, right? So it actually gets the right name. It's like there's obviously a big orchestration. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
same with the numbers, when people start seeing 1111 and just syncing with these numbers, it's the same thing where you just open up a can of worms and now it's everywhere.
Yeah. And all numbers are all creation is holy. That's the new way, like you just said, Christina. All the body, which then includes all teaching, all of the universe comes from source. So how can it not be a reflection of source? It has to be. Everything created in the universe, numbers, numerologies, teaching, orchestra, geometric solids, geometry, fractal, the whole creation carries within it the source because it came from source. It's just so simple when you feel that. So anything you do, your body can wake you up. Your emotions can wake you up completely. It's all sacred, or it's all original from source, from God. So therefore it has to reflect God.
yeah, indeed.
I love it. I love it.
And we have to go through the process, which is pro, which is through C and S, seeing the energy. And we have to unite the body and soul. And usually people are just jumping too much into spirituality, forgetting the body. And because of that imbalance of those two worlds, they are getting diseases of physical illnesses, like cancer, like head attacks. So because of those two imbalances, it's so very important to embrace those two worlds, in one pace, just to grow equally.
Yes. And we tried that at the end of Atlantis. There was a temple called Body Beautiful in Egypt where we still tried with light and sort of like laser spiritual lights and healing the soul to get rid of these things that had happened with the body, because humans started mixing with the animal kingdoms, which is, that's why we have all those mixes, which isn't wrong in a sense, but when you get trapped in that body and your chakra centers can't let the human spirit back out, the dog is a beautiful being, but they can't access certain spiritual realms until you have the human plexuses. We tried that in Egypt, but, it got funky because of all this. We've had body trouble, basically. That's just what you said, this separation. And then the Greeks, knew that the body beautiful was the divine body, right? The Greek statues, right? These beautiful, right? 600 BC. That was the end of it because they knew this connection was losing this connection. We were losing that body is God. Body is an expression of God. And then now it went to then worship of body, worship of form, and that's gone all the way into the, dysfunctional plastic surgery craziness that's going on the planet now. We still have this body problem. We know that the image and the essence are meant to be together. But we've separated image from essence, and it gets really static, and it's a terrible thing with anorexia, body dysmorphia, all these labels they put on people. People literally turning into the demons they fear they are on the inside by doing too much plastic surgery. Right? There's nothing wrong with a couple of little things if people want to do it, or if someone really hates their nose and it helps their... See, anything can be used for spirit and assistance, and anything can turn, bad, basically, or separating.
Yeah.
So yeah, the body is holy. The body is the temple.
Yeah. Yeah, and through respect we can grow. And like also you just talked about the planets, like we just lived in Marduk or or the Marduk. So we just destroyed that, and we have now asteroid belt. Then we went to Mars, we destroyed then the atmosphere of it. Then we went to Atlantis, we destroyed the continent. So just that happened only because we were not living with body and soul together as one. We just, because planet is also a body as well, so we just had to have that connection with her. And then now we are just living in the humanity era. So just what do you see in our today's society? Maybe we just have to maybe now in this case embrace the mindset of our thinking, like hard to explain.
What do you mean further? Accepting our humanity, or
yeah, what's the next point? I
we...
mean, we just destroyed the planet, then we just stepped to Mars, we just destroyed the atmosphere,
Right.
then to Atlantis, and then we just are living in this current moment. So maybe just now we have to embrace our, thinking and our feelings in ourselves, just to grow inwardly.
So the cycle repeats until you get it, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what you're saying. So there's the asteroid belt used to be Marduk, that we blew up. The souls in this solar system. And just like a good parent, they let you destroy a car, crash a car when you're 16. Right?
And they get you another one.
Yeah, exactly right.
Try again.
Right. Okay, don't do it again. Well, it's kind of like that, right? So then off we go to Mars. There's actually some souls very, very damaged by what happened with the asteroid belt. And they had to go way back to square one, in a sense. And this is going to be a little far out, but they are what's called the Yeti, or the Sasquatch. Okay? They're mysterious souls. They can walk in and out of timelines. We're going to discover this too. But some of those souls came from Marduk that got very damaged. Some got very damaged. It's when you do Hiroshima bombs, you can actually, when you do atom or hydrogen bombs, or even worse, you can affect the soul in a sense. It's all repairable, but they need sort of heavy repair. And so they've gone all the way back to primal stuff compared to super technology. Okay, this pendulum swing. It's just like the red race that did Atlantis. The Iroquois and are specifically very strong Atlanteans. The native red races of North America are the red race. That was Atlantis. They went so far away from technology because they realized it was very traumatic. That they didn't even invent the wheel. They had a block against technology. We can't handle it. We shouldn't be allowed to use it again. You see? Mm-hmm. And then eventually, of course, many of those, we all incarnate in different beings. And America today is basically Atlantis again, and Europe as well. So yes, we're coming up against the same thing. Are we going to go into World War III and blow ourselves up like we've done before, right? Or destroy the civilization? But my sense this time is we have enough people. I don't think I'm Pollyanna about it, but the feeling I get, the message I get, at least in my timeline, we're not going to actually create Mad Max. We're not going to do it. Because enough of us have done it, and we're like, okay, we don't want to do that again. So we're trying something new. We're trying an awakening that's going to include the body, include the emotions, and technology. And that is really a few planets in this galaxy, not tons. There's tons of planets with beings, but they're generally divided into control. This technical. They're divided. There's really not huge integrated planets on this planet and this galaxy. In 3D, Earth is there's an experiment. There's a few planets around the galaxy trying the same thing, of integrating organic flesh bodies at this level of sort of slow vibration. But slow is not bad. Slow is awesome. When you're listening to music, you like the bass. The bass is the best, right? Because we like vibration. So it's not a matter of good or bad. Mm-hmm. But at this level of vibration, there's etheric vibrations that are completely, there's different frequencies. This is like a radio station. It's not good or bad. Mm-hmm. Do you like stations over here or over here? It doesn't matter. Different types. Yeah, there's hip-hop, there's rap music, here's the trance music, here's the rock and roll, here's classical music, here's people talking. It's just a preference. It's the same with frequencies. But at this frequency, there was a separation because we got a little freaked out going into this level of vibration, and so we try to rush back by that ascension process to the higher realms. But this time I think we have a shot at integrating Earth, because Earth herself doesn't want to go through that anymore. Mm-hmm. And planets have a choice also. Now you might say there'd be some timelines where Mad Max happens and full-on World War III. That's true. That's also true, because all possibilities can occur. But I'm feeling very hopeful and interested. I can tell. It's just a choice. Like, I just went to see the Mad Max movie, I go, yeah, I know that's real. And I used to be more interested in that, but I'm not so interested. It's not a judgment. It's not a fear. I just don't want to live that out again. And now I'm more interested in, let's create free energy technology so there's no pollution. There's plenty for everyone. Money will go away, and animals are fine. We can evolve the animals too. No more killing of the animals or running them over with cars. We'll just have floating anti-gravity ships, all that. That's what a big part, or there's a timeline of Earth that's going to explore this new level of an awakened, enlightened civilization that cooperates. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's happening fairly quickly. There's lots of people that want it, and it's coming. And we're going to create it. It's up to us, Yeah. It's really cool. But so I don't think we're going to have an automatic lesson again. For many of us here on the planet, I've been there, I've done that. I don't want to start over again. It's like, I built my thing. I don't want to tear it all down and then start over. So I think a lot of us are not going to go through the complete destruction scenario again.
Yeah, let's be creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also another thing is interesting, that populations are growing of humanity, and like another thing, like Terence McKenna had one time the talk with Mushroom, and he just asked the Mushroom what can be the solution, for the humanity to change situation to the better side, and the Mushroom answered that to change the situation, every woman needs to have only one child. So, what do you think about that? About this answer of Terence?
Yeah, and the effect would be, he continued that within 40 years we would cut humanity in half without having to kill anybody.
Mm.
Yeah, yes. And this has to happen organically. And if truth be told, today, if you look at what's happening, this population explosion, something's going to happen that will reduce the population. And I don't think it's going to be... the conscious people are already doing it. If you know what I'm saying? People that are a little more evolved, they're like, we're just doing one child or no children. But still, there's a big thing on the planet that are just producing kids. You understand? And this is so hard to talk about because people are going to think you're into, eugenics or something. No, 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 no. But the thing is, like I said earlier, consciousness will not invite a soul in unless. Now, let's not blame people in parts of the world that are, having infant mortality and there's just babies out of control. We do it here in the U.S. It's called the Mormons. Let's get honest. 10 kids per family, not a good idea, right? Or Catholicism still promoting, have lots of kids, right? That's the propagating religions. They need more meat to feed on. That thing needs to stop. And it will. But it's actually the souls that God wants to reach, that Source wants to reach, that ayahuasca wants to reach, in our last ceremony, are the souls that can influence this. If you as a soul have 108 pieces of yourself running around the planet, feel that for a minute. If you have 100 other bodies running around, if you can reintegrate yourself, those fragments of yourself will come back into you. I know that's radical, you understand? Not everyone on the planet right now is a parental soul. Just because you have a human body, we know this is a fact. Look at twins. You can feel in those twins. That's one soul with two bodies. They finish each other's thoughts. You know what I mean? There's a whole other learning we need to go here. Because God is everyone, and we are all one mandala, the Christos, here on earth. We're really, you could say, one soul. But then there's individual souls. There's a game here of going on. When we create unconscious reproduction, the lesson comes from the outside. Through the suffering, through Ebola virus, whatever's going to happen. You understand? So the biggest thing we can do is to find the leader, the powerful souls that can do the change. See, there's some souls that can't do this change because they're soul fragments. I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. We got to wake up to this. So the real integration happens when the parental soul units heal themselves. They pull those pieces, like the soldiers up at Hadrian Wall in Scotland right now. Every night, there's a platoon of soldiers that are ghosts that walk that thing every night. The being that left their piece of soul with those soul fragments as form of ghosts might be an accountant in Rome today. Or, I don't know, an engineer out in Silicon Valley. That person needs to access that part of themselves and say, oh, I remember that trauma, or feel it, and I want to heal it, and I want to bring that energy back to me. Then those ghosts will kind of like get pulled back into that parental soul. But there are some of those ghosts that take physical form too. This is part of overpopulation. In an aligned, conscious planet, there is no overpopulation. And the mushroom is right. But unless you're conscious, you're not going to only have one child, right? So you can't, if you force it, like the Chinese tried to do, only one child per family, that doesn't work. Because then they would abort the women and just keep too many males, right, or whatever, right? It doesn't work. Force doesn't work. It has to be an internal choice. And the way you fix it is you start with those souls that are ready to do it. And then it will affect the whole rest of the creation, and eventually it becomes loving. If you do forced birth control and forced, you can only have one child, the energies are not healed, and it turns into a bad reflection. And the Chinese reflection of this policy of only one child per family is that there's 100 million extra males in China right now that there's not enough women. And what happens with 100 million extra males? They usually go off to war. They might head on down if the shit hits the fan in the Middle East. Those men will march physically down into the Middle East and secure the oil fields for China. See? So you can't force it. It has to be an internal healing, and you have to start with those people that are ready for that. You can run off to poor villagers everywhere around the world, Bangladesh or Africa, or poor people here in the U.S. or anywhere that just don't have enough education and consciousness, or self-control, or they're disconnected. You can try to, from the outside, force them and give them birth. That's not a solution. It's a stopgap. It's a stopgap emergency timeout solution, but it doesn't fix the problem.
It's also their retirement insurance, you know. The farmers had a lot of children because that's the insurance you have when you're older. They will take care of you. Some will leave, some will take care of you. There
Yeah.
was no retirement insurance you sign up for, put, money in there or whatever, and then that doesn't work. And just look at the culture, just look at the sexual culture, what that has
Yeah.
done to China, and this
Yeah.
obsession with the little girls because they're killing them,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. It gets totally unbalanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we go blaming the less educated, these soul fragments, we need to heal it in ourselves first. See, if it triggers you and you have judgments come up like those stupid idiots, we need to castrate them all, right? Let's be honest. That's the feeling that's going to circulate in civilized countries, right? There's a problem, right? How do you get rid of them? No, you can't do it that way. You've got to heal it in yourself, and then at the same time do bridging. So the population is going to reflect. And if we don't look at it, Ebola's coming, or something like the Banda Aceh earthquake, It's like lemmings, I have to tell you. It's like nature takes care of it. Nature is in her fallen state still now. See, in the healed, conscious, natural state, Jesus points towards that, and he says the lion will lay down with the lamb. The predatory instinct is not natural, really. There's an example of a tigress, or a lioness, little tyke. You can Google it. Little tyke, vegetarian lioness. True story. Absolute true documented story. She would never eat. You could put one drop of blood in her food and she wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 400 pounds and healthy and no problems. And the scientists would say, no. Felines must eat meat or they have macular degeneration. That's a scientific law. And they create it actually happening to cats. See, what we decide is the law, we make the animals do.
Mm.
But this lioness didn't do that. My point is that there is no overpopulation on a healed planet with the animals or anybody. There's no cat overpopulation. You don't need to sterilize them. It all takes care of itself. But in the fallen current state that we have as humans on the planet, because we've separated our body from our heart and from our consciousness, there's like a giant disconnect in the heart. And everything below is a garbage dump, and this is supposed to be holy. That disconnect has to be healed in enough individuals on Earth to reach critical mass to bring in this new aligned civilization creation. And it looks very difficult, but actually it's very encouraging because millions of people are recognizing that I need to heal myself now. And that's the quickest thing. You still work in the outer world. I get accused of, well, Tobias, you got to take care of what's real in the outer world. I say both. The bird doesn't fly with one wing. It flops around and, it's horrible. So if you're just doing outer action, running around, trying to save it, fix everything, that doesn't work. If you're just doing inner action, that's not enough either. You need to do inner action, and then when it directs, do the outer action. Both.
Yeah. And it's not only embracing the bodies, like you talked about the ghosts, it's also embracing the places we left, like cities which were somewhere in the past time, which are not even the inhabited now, but the memory and the feeling is still there. So for example, we're just feeling that something was there maybe thousands of years ago. We just have also embraced that and just go through that. And that goes like Carlos Castaneda talked about, the erasing personal history. You have to erase that, like rise above that, embrace the importance of that, and just take all those left parts of yourself, all those cities, not only just like bodily ghosts, but also the places and planet itself.
Absolutely. If in the timeline for Earth, where if people do not clean up the old history, the old fragments, the old energies, the city, exactly, in that timeline, Earth, herself is going to clean them. And the way she cleans them is with massive earthquakes, upheaval, and cleansing water. It's like after a tornado, it is incredibly clean. The air is completely cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
After a good storm or a good rain, you can feel the difference. So if we do not clean up these ghosts, these fragmented energies, she will. But the way she does that is she wipes it out. Or, she tills the earth. There's no problem for Mother Earth in one sense to have, a continent sink, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just her growing. So in the timeline where people are going to keep denying this, they're going to experience earth changes, upheavals, and some of those may or may not be pleasant.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a loving source. If there's a bunch of souls the souls that don't want to go with Earth's program right now, with the transparency, the awakening, the honesty, how to, feelings, healing, sexuality, emotional, the body, including those souls that are going to insist on separation and domination, they will be going off the Earth. They will be going to other planets that are still in that phase of their evolution. There's nothing wrong. There's no judgment. It's just physics. It's like you don't put a 12th grader back into 3rd grade. You just don't do it. It doesn't work. Well, souls are also evolving, so souls that are still interested in not looking at themselves and just dominating others, and that, they're allowed to do that, and God doesn't hate them, Source doesn't hate them or condemn them. It's just their own schooling, but there's an appropriate place for that experience. And Earth herself has said, I'm done with that. I've done enough of that, and she's moving on. And so in the timeline for Earth, this is what the big change is right now. The reward is going to be for the people that turn back to natural living, natural openness, and the people that are still trying to hide, control, dominate. They cannot survive on Earth. Who's going to win? A few human egos called the Illuminati, or the sun and the Earth? Come on, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Who's going to win? The sun, who gives all the information to Earth, the Earth, who's a giant planet, who has her own volition, or a few people who think they can control the human. It's stupid. Of course they have to go. And the truth is that old cabal of the people that try to dominate and control the Earth, the Illuminati, call them what you want, they know it. They know it. There's a few old ones that are dying off, but there's young ones inside that know, look, we can't do this. We don't want to do this. Like their kids, the young kids now inside the Illuminati families, they know it. They don't want it. And I've had good evidence for that in 2 situations where actually those people have visited friends of mine. They want the ship because partially they know they can't do it anymore because they can't win. They can try to run off to Mars again, but it's going to suck on Mars. It's not a good time. Mm-hmm. If they want to run off to Mars again, which they have secret space programs, they have buildings on Mars and stuff right now. They can do that. But would you want to live over there where you can't go outside, or you got to live with transhumanism and skeletons and protection and controlling others and all that? Good luck to you. But you're not going to do it here. It's not happening here anymore. That's being completely phased out. So and Source is loving and Earth is loving. They are going to have to go through their repentance, their healing, their confession. They're going to have to explain and say sorry, and yes. But if they don't do that, they're out of here.
Yeah. And also, like you told, like the planet has an ocean, like it also has a storms to clean things. We ourselves have tears, like you said, like tears cleaning of the heart. And when we have no more tears, we will be in pure bliss because we won't have nothing to clean, after to that. So it's nothing bad to cry. It's nothing bad in the storm. You just have to go through that process. That was very beautiful.
Yeah. And feel that whenever people when crying comes up, I love it. I'm like, okay, it's finally real, we can just be with this. Or even rage. Rage is a little harder for some people. Like, someone flips out and goes into rage, I'm like, as long as there's no guns and knives around and there's no physical violence, come on, let's do it. Actually, that's okay too, but we don't want any weapons because we don't want nobody to get killed.
Yeah.
But we all need to move. this stuff. So when deep grief comes to me now, I actually consider it like a visitation and a privilege and an opportunity I want to take advantage of to heal myself.
Yeah. The salt water cleansing is, there's three kinds we can cleanse ourselves with salt water. It's crying, tears, sweating, workout, or just simply taking a bath in the ocean.
Yeah.
And saltwater solution is the closest
Mm-hmm.
thing to blood there is. If you look at it chemically,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost identical. There's just a red color um, that divides it chemically.
Difference.
It's almost the same.
Sometimes when people come swimming in Hawaii, there's something that they feel like that. They go like, I feel like I'm in my mother's blood womb, like they're in the fluid. Yeah. If you can take people out into the ocean and anywhere, but in Hawaii, people are reporting it. And if you can relax them enough that they can go into this sort of feeling their inner body and floating, it's like that feeling you get on the beach where you kind of feel like a little
Yeah.
dreamy. You know what I
Mm-hmm,
mean?
mm-hmm.
If you lay on the beach, it's because there's crystal sand
Right.
and there's the salt water
Mm-hmm. The
and there's some
sunlight.
in the sun, and there's this beautiful interface that'll just make you kind of like a little bit drunk. You know, it's like I'm
Yeah, I
feeling like
regularly fall asleep on the beach and have these magnificent 15, 20 minutes naps so you wake up so recharged. It's incredible.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Water, natural water, no resistance. And anything can be co-opted. You know, there can be authentic crying and fake crying, of course. But when authentic crying comes, authentic grief, of course we have grief. Look what we've done to our fair sister, right? And ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
We have huge grief about separation from the nature kingdoms, separation from innocence, you know, separation from the garden of you don't have to do anything. Nature just loves you. And you love nature. There's no shortage of food. You can walk through nature and she will literally produce fruit for you if you want that, but you don't need it because you don't need to eat because you're eating directly from energy.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's where we came from. And now we're like, you know, fallen and separated, and there's a huge fear and grief around that. And the fear is the same thing as rage. It's just the flip side of it, you know. And grief. Those are the only things. It's like rage and grief, or fear and grief. Those are the only two emotions, like a seesaw. And we're going to have to feel some of that stuff to clean it. You know, flip back and forth a little bit. You're going to get
Yeah.
really, really pissed, really angry, if we get honest. And you're going to have issues with God source and, you know, why was I created and how can you be such a horrible absentee landlord? You suck, you know. Those are all totally normal feelings. It's like an abandoned child. An abandoned child, when mommy first comes back, they're going to be hurt, angry, they're going to have issues. We got issues. We feel abandoned, you know. So we have to get honest with that. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and those tears and those, the moments just bringing us to the balance, like cherishing the moment, like also the word cheers is like to see and hear, or just to see and being in that here moment, like just like cherishing the exact moment. And for that, we can reach the balance and rise above.
yes. And it becomes beautiful. We're talking kind of heavy stuff here a little bit. One of my doggies comes here. She kind of comes and talks to me. She comes and talks to me. She actually kind of goes, Tobias, it's time now. You've been on there long enough. It's time to stop. She's so funny. And she's pushing the computer. Gabby, stop it. Let me show Gabby. Gabby, where's Gabby? Where's Gabby? I don't know. She ran off. There she is. There she is. Gabby, come here. Come here for a minute. Come on. You want to show your face? There she is.
Aw.
Come on,
Hey,
babe.
cutie. Aw.
She's 2 years old, and she's just like deciding to become a grown-up girl. It's kind of like a teenager when they first start putting on makeup and stuff. It's like really. She's like, no, I'm not going to chase the frisbee as much anymore. It's like really funny. And I've actually seen her future incarnations, and I know she's going to be human here, maybe even the next one. She's very different. We have 4 dogs, and she's very, I don't know. She can use her hand. It's amazing.
Mm.
So she's here. I'm sorry, we got a little off track there, maybe, but
That's fine. Yeah, we were at the cheer word, and dogs are always cheering, you know,
they are.
most of the time, and so are plants. And again, maybe Terrence McKenna, you know, when he was explaining his DMT trips, there is first you see the flower, and then you go in, and you go into the room there, the cupola, and there is he said there is a cheering, there is a some sort
Mm.
of cheering, and and he just sits there in awe and listens and
Mm.
hears. So that cheer,
Mm.
see and hear, is yeah, again, it's in the word right there for us.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's a rejoicing is the old way of saying it. Gab, you're gonna wait just a minute, okay? Okay, down. It's okay, baby. You stay.
Yeah,
There's that.
rejoicing and being in that present moment, like see and hear and see and being here in this place right now, just
Yeah,
totally gathered together.
that's what happens. I call it unreasonable joy. It's like there's joy for no reason. There's automatic. Why are you feeling so good? I have no clue. It's there's no cause. You don't need to accomplish or do anything, or you're just enjoying because you are. And that's yeah, exactly. I do it. I feel that all the time, and I'm consciously watching it. See, at first when it happens to us, we're just drunk with it. It's like I just feel good, and let's go spend it. And we do something, and then we lose it again. You know, we lose our energy. But after a while, you can be an observer of this as well. You can observe, there's the unreasonable, meaning the out of the blue, the automatic, the forever and ever flowing of their fountain of fun and play. I'm driving to the grocery store, and I'm like in ecstasy, you know? And
Rejoicing.
yeah, and it just, so this is part of, as we do the cleaning, this is the encouragement for us. It's like when you clean out an old piece that you've been dragging around, that lightens the whole load. It becomes anti-gravity. It becomes joyful. It becomes, I gain power. I feel great, you know? So that's the encouragement, that way back to wholeness and integration, you will be able to sit there by yourself for no reason in ecstasy and bliss. You'll start realizing, I don't need outer I don't need something out here, food, other people, entertainment incessantly, or I need to achieve something to let myself feel good. That doesn't work anyway. You ever notice that? If it's outer, you get like a momentary high, but then it goes away really quickly.
Right.
But real cheer, real enjoyment. So in the other realms, yeah, that makes sense. I've never done pure DMT myself, but that makes total sense that they would welcome you and cheer you on.
Yeah. In infinity, welcome to infinity, pretty much. That the word rejoicing gives it away again. Or light, ra, joy, see, and ing, the infinitive.
Yeah.
So the light joy, you start seeing infinity, and everything is
Rejoining.
cheering. Yeah.
Rejoining.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. That's the default position. That's what I notice. It just gets better. It seems shitty for a while, but you notice, like, okay, because the goal here for many of us is I want to clean up as much as I can, because this is a really good time on Earth to do that. So we might clean up a chunk, and then we really enjoy that for a while, and then something else starts up, you know. And to trust that process on Earth at this time. This is not the time on Earth when we're going to be only rejoicing on Earth. That's not right now. Maybe a couple of generations or a couple of incarnations from now, many of the souls that we are here on Earth, we're basically just going to have a lifetime of total rejoicing, like total, okay, let's just have a vacation. and just freaking enjoy what we've done. But that's not that you can do that individually here on Earth right now, while the cleanup, the cleansing, the movement from old stuck fear programs, paradigms, whether that's black oil to free energy, or dominator of souls to free souls, or fearful relationships to trusting, comfortable relationships, or whatever that shift. But right now, no one can stop you individually. You can enjoy the unreasonable ecstasy of bliss of God inside yourself, but you can't expect others to be on the same page as you at this time, because there's a lot. But no one can stop you from permanently moving to that place. If you're driving through the neighborhoods of, horrible crime-infested areas in Baltimore, or I don't know where, the Bronx or something, or neighborhoods in Sao Paulo, Brazil, you can still feel the ecstasy and the bliss of God's source, but you can't expect them to be like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the age of information to the age of transformation. Yeah.
Yes, we've had upgrade from the age of survival, right? The age of horrible short lifetimes, and you die of the Black Plague, right?
Mm.
And we upgraded that to the industrial thing, which we can argue whether it's good or not, but it's a necessary phase to get out of, to move through this old karma, and then into, it's all about information, computers, Wikipedia, everything accessible all the time. The more you know, the better you are. And then we're going to realize, information is not enough. We have to actually do something with that information and transform the old stuck models. It has to cause actual change, transformation in, quote, the real world. So the information is the fuse or the activator, you could say, and then the transformation is you actually feeling your cellular energies change, feeling it in your kidneys, your solar plexus, your sexuality, your heart, and feeling that energy, intelligent energy, is the trump card, is the foundation. Not mental information is descriptive. Information is the blueprint. The blueprints are not the house.
Mm-hmm.
Information is the blueprints. That's not you can't live in the blueprint.
And starting to realize that it's okay to react to these inner energies in a natural way and not in the expected way. People around you or around me sometimes say, "Why are you not feeling well? So you aren't smiling." I'm saying, well, guess what? I'm completely immersed in universal comfort right now.
Yeah.
I don't need to pretend that I'm sad or happy. I am complete right now. And I'm just submerged in there, or emerged, and I don't need it. It would be a lie, It wouldn't be truth speaking to your face, but there's nothing wrong with that.
The way that I totally hear that, and the way that's showing up more and more for me is that when I watch drama around me, whether it's somebody crying or freaked out or stressed out or scared, I can just be with it without it affecting me. And the old way, we thought, you don't care if you're like that. It's like we thought caring or loving means I have to stress with you.
Yeah.
And so then you can be very calm and almost neutral. But that's what Buddha did. He saw all the drama, trauma, and karma, and was still able to hold space. And that's what we're learning too. Yeah, absolutely. We have to transform our those old reactions because they're not helpful. The old reaction of I got to jump in there and drown with you to prove that I love you.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
That
So
caring, right? That is
So people don't
something.
understand. So people don't understand when you watch death, and you're like, you actually can feel really ecstatic, and the world's not quite ready for that, right? It's like If you're like, oh, I love that he died. No, people don't get that yet, you know. It's still not currently so acceptable. But watch your dogs. They're like, she's dead. Let me feel it. They might do a little grieving in one sense, but they will react naturally. We're not quite yet allowed to react naturally, collectively, but we're getting there. So like when someone comes to you with, see, the Taoist master is unexpected. What the impulse of life wants to do is so different than our programming. There might be a homeless person that comes up to you and you might go, get a fucking job. Now others will look at that and go, oh my God, you're a horrible person. Why are you doing that? You're so uncompassionate. But you don't know. I mean, if the Tao wants you to do that in the moment, that person might get their gander up enough that okay, I gotta stop doing this, you know. Or something, something can come out of you. That's why masters work in mysterious ways. Why does Jesus curse the fig tree? Why does Swami Nityananda, when people would come to see him, he'd throw stuff at them. He'd yell at them and throw stuff at them. And they would have massive healing. Sometimes. Other times he'd hold the baby and be really sweet. Because the mysterious life force is beyond the programming. I'm really interested in that stuff. That I love. And at the same time, you got, that's why hermits and crazy masters live all by themselves, because we don't understand, Swami Nityananda, who was Swami Muktananda's teacher, would just walk around naked, He was not like a functioning human, because he just didn't want that, any part of that. But, miracles would happen around him. And when the British soldiers came and said, we hear you're building unauthorized buildings here, and these, he dove in, and they asked him, where are you getting the money to do all this? Right? He's this naked yogi, basically, right? And the British officer on his horse, right? And he says to the officer, he goes, there's a crocodile in the river that gives me gold. And the officer's about to get mad at him, go, quit, don't lie, He goes, but he dives into the river, and he comes back up with a little bag of gold. And he gives it to the officer. Here's the taxes you want. I mean, this is a crazy master. This is what we would call, a whatever. We call them crazy masters even in India. And they can't live in the U.S. or the West because, they don't operate our way at all. Well, what ended up happening is that British officer became a student of his, because the British officer was affected by the energy, So we're working our way back there. People like, I'm still behaving nicely most of the time, so we don't freak people out, But if people have seen me in my other mode, if you want me to get my girlfriend in here, she'll tell you, we don't have a problem reacting naturally. If I corner my cat, my beautiful cat that loves me, if I corner her and threaten her life, she will turn on me and fight me to the death. Because she's not programmed. The dog is programmed by humans and will take the beating and the death without fighting back. But the cat won't. The cat won't. Because the cat is still primal enough. So we have lost this touch. The humans lost their primal fighting back spirit, which is why we've been made sheep, right? Yeah. So there is a time, and the closest we get is Taoism. There's a right time for everything. There's a time to, or in the Ecclesiastics in the Bible, the right time to kill. See? Sweetie Pie Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, he kills 2 people. And some birds, too. Why would the Prince of Peace, the only begotten Son of God, blah, 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 kill things? Why does he wither the fig tree? You will know when you're in touch with the Tao, you'll go, totally, I get it. But when you're looking for,
There is a little bit of delusion about caring and what caring is, and then we put ourselves in these situations where we think if I stop actively caring for this or that person, then I don't love them anymore, you know? And this is completely delusional. It's false because there is this natural level of caring for each other once we've grown into that role, and we don't need to pretend that, oh, now I gotta bring flowers home. You know, it's a nice thing, but not to care for somebody.
It becomes
If you
programming.
know, you
It
know,
becomes programming instead of natural, spontaneous love, and then it's false and fake, and it doesn't feel good anyway.
mm,
It's like getting a gift from your boss, you know, because it's Christmas. You know what I mean?
thanks.
Let me put that in the garbage right away. I'm not even going to open it, right? I did that actually once. True story. I'm not opening this. I don't even want to touch it, right? Because in the same way it's crept into relationships. Spontaneous love we love. I'm not saying not to buy cards and flowers and stuff. There's a right time, but when it's done out of obligation and should and guilt, it sucks. Yeah. And I'm being harsh with the homeless. I'm picking the worst example, like, you know, yelling at a homeless person, right? Get a fucking job. I mean, that's pretty harsh. But there's a time when we don't know what wakes people up, you know? And sometimes a sharp knock is what, and this is what masters do with people. Masters do anything they can, or what's required, to get that program or that ego to loosen its hold on them, you know. So like Yogananda's master used to do things to him, you know, you know what I mean? Like he'd put someone else in charge of the ashram that would be a little Hitler and run and destroy everything. And Yogananda would be like, how could my master put this idiot in charge? Well, it's because he's teaching everyone, he's triggering everybody, you know. So there's mysterious ways. And this is what God lets us do. God lets us, we get hard knocks from the reflection universe to get us to go back and seek, you know, and to find what's authentic, get away from that which is artificial and find that which is authentic. An authentic life is very different than this civilization. You could say civilization is just based on a fear of nature. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to change on the planet a lot more, like the ayahuasca ceremonies or whatever. Psychedelics for the right people at the right time, it can be awesome, you know. There's a new medicine now, there's Bufarius, the frog, Bufo varius, the frog that lives in the Sonoran Desert, which is apparently a completely natural 5-MeO DMT that is just off the charts and just changes people. They have an encounter with the divine, and it just massive change. A friend of mine just did it, and I never promoted it. I spent 20 years not doing any psychedelics, but these natural medicines are going to reassert themselves as well, like they're doing with ayahuasca. And this frog medicine is going to grow. The next 10, 20 years is going to be huge, because it's a short experience of like 30 minutes, but it completely takes you to the throne room of Source, and you just kind of wake up. And yeah.
Wow.
It's called Bufo. Just look up frog, Sonoran toad. Bufo varius, I think is the Latin term. I forget right now, but I just heard about it. And the man who's doing it is a medical doctor in Mexico, and it's his job. He became drug addicted himself, even though he had everything in life. And this is his harsh catastrophe to learn and to wake up, and he's becoming the ambassador for this medicine, which is quite powerful. Yeah. Anyhow, just as an aside. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see here. We're at the 2-hour mark. I
Oh,
could
really?
go forever, but
I know.
maybe we'll leave some for a next show in the future.
I tell you, Gabby knows. I mean, she knows. When I
Yep.
do sessions, she comes in and goes, okay, that you're done now. It's time to go. And she gave me the message, and then she left.
Yeah. And that was half-hour ago.
I know. But often she pulls the cords out, too. She'll go, okay, that's enough. Let's pull the cords out.
Oh, it's funny. Okay.
But But it was really nice.
Yeah, on that note, thank you so much. Wonderful avalanche of wisdom here that we were able to witness together with you. And
You and you, feeling it with both of you. It's really nice. Like I said, there's there's an old wisdom with both of you that's smart about how to bring this stuff to the world.
mm, it definitely feels good, and it's a lot of fun doing this, and we are learning so much, inviting you and other people that are helping us putting this all together as humanity. So
Mm.
thank you so much for the work you do, and I hope we can reconnect in the future. Um, I'm personally am interested also in your trips. Maybe we'll meet someday and hook up. Um, but for
Mm-hmm.
now, Tobias, thank you so
Thank,
much. And
thank you. It's beautiful.
yeah, it is.
I I enjoyed it, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Stefan.
Tobias. It
Yeah,
was awesome.
beautiful. And we'll talk more, and let me know. Yeah.
Awesome. All
Awesome.
right. Bye,
All
Gabby.
right. Bye.
Bye
She
bye.
left. She did her job and went
We
and
all want to see.
Have
We
a
all
nice
Thank
want
you.
to be
Yeah, bye.
real, and we're searching when we're finding. We all want to feel the taste of belief, and we search for directions where we meet with our fears. We all want to steer, we want to appear, even in the highest battle, face the unreal. Do you feel the grace of fear? There is no need to disappear. Just stay here and get clear.